Hi, everyone. My name is Srna Stos.
And I'm Jackie Shamus.
Welcome back to another episode of Fill Your Cup. We missed you guys and we're ready to go.
We're ready to go. Srna, how was your week? We honestly haven't caught up. What did you do last night? I saw you were at dinner.
I was at dinner.
Okay. Where did we go?
Mamo, it's in Brickell.
Oh, I'm going there tonight.
Oh my God. It is so good.
Is it really?
Well, you're not going to get this because I know you with like.
Does it have dairy?
Well, yeah, the pasta has dairy, but I got like the veal.
Oh no, I don't.
Yeah,
you know me. I don't eat meat.
Yeah, she's not gonna get. So I'm like, but it's the burrata is dairy. So
yeah. Well, maybe I'm.
Yeah, but there's so many options. You're gonna love it.
I'm so excited.
Have you been?
No, but I'm going. So I'm going with Jenny and Anna tonight for the first time.
Them.
Yeah, we were supposed to go. I don't know when, but we had to reschedule, and we're going tonight. That's so
funny.
Love
it. It was packed, so you'll have fun. But what did
Who
you
were
do?
We with?
Just. You know.
I know. I just love to ask.
It was a great night. So, but what did you do?
I did nothing. I got my nails done. I filled my cup yesterday by getting my nails done. I don't know if you guys have heard of like the red nail theory. Do you know of that?
Is it about how guys love red nails?
Apparently guys love red nails. Apparently it attracts luck and love. Yeah. She knows red used to give me bad luck.
Well, both of us, we stayed away from red just for that purpose.
Well, I used to be convinced it gave me bad luck, but I'm giving it a shot. So
it looks good on you. It looks good on you. We've had I think we've both had crazy weeks though.
How was your week?
It was like a roller coaster, I want to say. Mm-hmm. It really tested, I think, my patience, my alignment, just where I'm at. Mm-hmm. But I think it was definitely a learning experience. How was yours?
Same. I think I had a very challenging week. I've had a very challenging month, if I'm going to be completely honest. Obviously, the last time we recorded, it was the day after things started in the Middle East, and it's been a challenging month, not only for me, but for many of us. But, something very scary happened to me. I'm not ready to talk about it just yet. Mm-hmm. I think in a December episode I will be, and I'll explain why then. But something scary happened to me, disrupted my peace and my sense of safety. So, yeah, I've just, I will say I'm coping.
Yeah.
I've been coping, but I think I've been handling it pretty well.
You've handled it like a champ. That was just what I was going to say. And I think that you've really, like the way that we would have handled things before and how you're handling it now is just like, I think that you are what we talk about. You can't control with what happens to you. You can control how you react and respond. And you've been I'm in awe of how you've handled everything. Yeah. And
I think it was one of those moments, and obviously I don't want to talk about it too much because you guys are going to be like, what is it? But it was a moment where I was like, everything is happening to me for a reason. And if it wasn't for spirituality, I wouldn't have thought of things that way. I would have been like, why me? Why is this happening to me? But it definitely was challenging. But I think more than that, I've had a very challenging month in terms of saying no and setting boundaries and realizing that I've outgrown certain people and certain things.
Yeah.
And I think it's a conversation you and I have a lot about it being okay to outgrow something that doesn't align with you anymore.
And not feel like this is a quote I heard, but if you are put in a position where you have a choice either to disappoint yourself or other people, it's always better to disappoint other people.
Yeah.
You have to, I think, oh my God.
Please look at that.
Was that a hawk?
Yeah.
Oh my God. That would look like he was going to come in. I saw it in the mirror. I was like, oh my God.
Okay.
But I think always, and it's not selfish, I think that even lifelong friends, even lifelong people, it's okay to outgrow them and build, even if they're not totally out of your life, but just have those boundaries and be adamant about them and do not feel bad about them. Because people are gonna, if you don't align anymore, you don't align. So there's also, when you're growing, you just can't take some people with you.
Yeah. Can you give me an example of a time where like you felt like you outgrew something and it was challenging for you to walk away from it? Because I think you and I are both people pleasers and we want to be there for people, but at the same time, we realize that we've outgrown them. So can you give me an example of a time where that has happened, where you're like, I've definitely outgrown this person, but I know you and you and I are the same, where we're just like, we feel like we still have to show up for them.
1,000%. And I think that we're finally getting to a place where we're almost there. I want to say I'm not fully there, but I'm almost there, because I still, there's times when people realize that I'm kind of distancing myself, and then they'll be like, oh, people will become better and nicer just to like get back in your life. And then I'll get tricked into going back to the dynamic. But now I think there's a friend that I have had. I'm in the process of kind of distancing myself, but I think a friend that constantly complains, constantly calls me to complain, doesn't ask, doesn't really care or, even bring up how I'm doing, what's going on. And then when I don't respond, it's like she guilts me into like not responding, like, you're just completely, you don't have time for me anymore. You don't this, but it's like it blows my mind that some people don't really look in the mirror and think about, okay, well, maybe how I'm handling this friendship is the reason she's distancing herself.
Yeah. I have the same experience where I've started to distance myself from people who have been almost like lifelong friends. And I think you can relate to this too. We definitely had some sort of like party stage and went out all the time. And some of my friends were from that stage, and they're still, and I'm not judging them. I'm just saying, I don't think I'm known as a party girl anymore.
No, you're not.
Which I'm actually, I'm happy about, but I think that they're part of that stage. And I feel like when they call me, it's like, oh my gosh, I have to tell you about last night, yada, yada, yada. Doesn't ask me a single thing about how I'm doing, hangs up the phone. And
Vents about their night,
the guy they're talking to, the guy they went home with, and what he did, and she hasn't heard it, but then no questions about me. And it's just like, I've just started to realize that is not a friend, and not someone that I consider a friend, because when you and I talk on the phone,
oh my God,
it's like that meme that it's like, yes, I'm in the hospital, but how are you doing? I'm doing.
We always send that to each other.
Yeah, because that's us. We're just always like, yes, I'm going through things and this is what's happening in my life, but how are you doing? Because you're important to me too.
But it's crazy. And this is what I want to bring up, what happened yesterday, how good of a friend you are to me. I had a moment, and the first person, I don't cry a lot, but I started bawling. I had a blow up just from the week, and it was something work-wise.
And you haven't cried in a really long time. I know when she texts me, can I call you? Yeah. Something happened.
And she's at Soho House doing working from there. And she, within 0.5 seconds, goes walking out now so she can talk to me, because she goes,
because they yell at you if you talk there.
And she walks out. She goes, "What's going on?" And she is like, and I thought about it, and I'm like crying. And in my mind, while I'm telling her, I'm like, how blessed am I to have a person like you in my life, that I could pick up the phone and be like, Jackie, this is what just happened, and you within a second. That's why she's my emergency contact.
You are too. Like, I know, because I know, and the same thing happened to me actually the other day. I hate like not explaining what happened, but when that thing happened to me, that was very scary. She was, after my mom and my dad, she was the first person I called. Yeah. She showed up with her mom.
With my mom.
In 20 minutes.
Full army.
With her dogs, with full army, showed up for me. And I think that
and
is
Jackie
a friend.
was like, no. And I'm like, are you kidding me? What just happened? You are not going to do this. I will literally like drop whatever. And and we have that conversation all the time. I'm like, we both are. If it's the middle of the night, depending on if our phones are on silent, but if it's the middle of the night, like that's just the type of friendship we have. And there's not one time I could say, like one of us gave more. It's so equal.
It is so equal.
And it varies. Sometimes I'm having but it's so funny, because I think that both of us, we go through it with each other. Like it hurts my heart when you.
Same. And that's why, and I think you and I can relate to a lot of things. So, which is why we depend on each other.
But you know what's funny is like, and I think that this is another thing speaking of outgrowing people, I think that you also have to realize when people don't show up for you. We've realized that a lot of people, especially with the podcast, I think I'm surprised by some people that haven't reached out. We've had people that we have no idea who they are, and the emails we've gotten, and it literally, I think we had to pinch ourselves how amazing these messages have been. And some of our close friends haven't showed up.
But it's really interesting because now I know, and I'm not saying I'm not petty like this because you and I aren't petty like this, but when you launch a business that you really care about, because me and Srna care about this podcast so much and we've put so much effort into it, and Ricky knows, and thank God for him, but we put so much thought and effort into this where we are working on the weekends because we're editing, clips for Reels and TikToks. We're doing the captions. We're working overtime for this. Mm-hmm. And when people we care about don't show up for us, like, I'm never going to forget that.
No.
And that's the thing about me. I don't forget, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to care about, which is like so sad, but it doesn't mean that I'm not going to care about you. Exactly. But don't expect me one day when you launch a business you really care about, don't expect me to show up.
And you know what? I think that even if that does happen, we would still show up.
Yeah, we would.
We would. But that's the thing. Because
like, don't expect me to, but I will.
We say it now, but we would. And you know what? I wouldn't change that about ourselves.
No, I wouldn't. You're right.
And I would never be, you always want to be the person that cares more, that shows up for people. If that's on you, if you want to be not someone that shows up for their friends, not someone that is like, I'm proud of you, even if you don't have time to listen, even if you don't have time to, and I'm not coming at anyone specifically. Yeah. I'm just saying we've seen
not at all.
The podcast now, we've done a number of episodes. People have had the chance to listen to it and some people haven't, and not even listen.
But not even if you've listened, because I can tell you there's been people, and I know there's so much going on. Yeah. I know it, but there's been people who have said the nicest things. It's a simple text as, hey, I'm so sorry. I've been so overwhelmed with everything going on, which I have received. Yeah. I haven't listened to the podcast yet, but I'm really proud of you and I will listen. Like, honestly, that's it.
That's all that, even no matter how much, we all have busy lives. Yeah. Let me tell you. But if you have time to post stories, to look at stories, to live life, you have time to send a text to people who matter.
Yeah. I was going to say there's enough time in the day for things that you care about and the people you care about.
And I think that goes into 100%, Jackie. And I think that we've seen that. And I think that goes into that's another way you see if you've outgrown someone, because I think then we have to change our relationships with those people.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to be the same.
Right.
Because that showed me, you've had a number of times, you've had, the first couple of weeks we were like, a lot's going on.
There was a lot going on.
And we were, even us with everything that was happening in the Middle East, we were like, should we launch?
It was a really hard decision.
Because it was so close to home for Jackie.
And she was, I'm going to say, and this is again showing up for people, she was the one who came up to me and was like, if you want to pause and not post, we don't have to. And that is a true friend, because she's thinking about how her friend feels.
Yeah. And I would have said, I'm here. We did have this conversation. Jackie was so appreciative. Like, she was like, but you know what, and I think that then we thought about it, and this podcast, we're really trying to spread love and just all heal together. So we're like, that's what the world needs a little more of.
Yeah. I think that, and we've received so many sweet messages kind of saying that, but, I want to go back to what you just said about people not showing up for you. And I think that in terms of relationships and dating, we've kind of outgrown the people that just don't show up, because we know that that's not what we deserve.
And I think it's about being aware you've outgrown them, because some people outgrow people, but they stay in it for comfort.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yes.
Can you give me an example of a time like you kind of stayed for comfort, even though you definitely outgrew? Because you and I do not support any people who do not show up.
No, and I think that that's been something that now that's a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it. And I remember on the TikTok, there was, when we posted the relationship non-negotiables, someone said, what, this is just the bare minimum. Yeah. How is this like, and you would be surprised at how hard it is for some people. Mm-hmm. And I think that with the last relationship, but this last time I realized I was aware that I outgrew him.
Yeah.
And that's when I cut it off, because I was like, we do not align. Like, where I'm at right now and where he's at, but you have to, and it was still hard for me to walk away. That's the thing. But now I knew it was for my betterment and it was for my highest good. And you have to have the courage to walk away.
Yeah.
Because you can have outgrown someone, but not have the courage to. And you had the courage to as well.
Yeah, I think it's just realizing your worth and realizing that you are the kind of person that shows up for someone and you expect the same back.
Yeah.
Can I speak?
No, it's okay, but it's a mouthful. You expect the same back.
You expect the same back, right?
And it's not even a big expectation.
It's not.
No.
I think because you and I are just like that. Like you just said with the podcast that I was like, don't expect me to show up, but we do show up because the people we care about, we always show up, and that is the least we deserve back.
100%. And I think that there's also that quote, you accept the love you think you deserve. Yeah. So, and I think now we know we deserve more. Before we didn't think we deserved more. And that goes not just into romantic relationships, but everything. And I think that you and I have had the courage to walk away now and to be, and not just like, but some people kind of bluff and say, oh, I'm going to walk away, assuming the other person is gonna, you know, be like, oh, come back. Like, you know, not, but they're not fully ready to walk away. Mm-hmm. You have to be ready to walk away.
I was going to say, something that this makes me think of is career, because I've walked away from situations, this with an S, where I just realized that I outgrew the situation. I outgrew the job. It wasn't for me anymore. And I will never forget, there was a job that I had when I first moved down to Miami where I was so unhappy, and I don't think the boss was nice to anyone in the company. Mm-hmm. And I still know people working there who used to complain with me about the company. Oh. And it's because they're so comfortable and they're scared to get out of that comfort zone.
Jackie, I'm so glad you brought that up, because there's also, even though we're miserable, we would rather go with what's comfortable than what is unknown.
Yes.
And that's what's scary as people. What we do is we would so much rather, because you know what, as people, we want to predict what happens, and the unknown is so much scarier than the miserable.
Yeah. It's funny because when it comes to the unknown, you know that I love my routine, and usually I don't like stepping away from it, but I know that as soon as I outgrow something, you know me, like I am out. I'm out of the situation. I'm out of the relationship. I'm out of the job. When I've outgrown something and I realize that it's not for me and that I'm meant for more and deserve more, I'm out.
Jackie, and I want to say that you've inspired me so much, because she has really, and we've said this, like Jackie doesn't just talk the talk, like she is able to stay true to herself and actually deliver, because it's hard to be like, I'm going to leave it's easy to say, I'm going to leave if this happens. But when the time comes, if it does happen, people are like, oh, I had a change of heart. You stayed true to yourself. You walked away, and the universe, God loves courage.
Yeah.
And when you are able to, and I know it sounds like, you know, a little cheesy, but when you are able to stay true to yourself and your values and actually deliver on that, then you get rewarded, because now you're like in such an amazing place work-wise, because you were able to take that step no matter how scary it was, and you were in the unknown. And I remember we had conversations about it.
We had so many conversations where I remember telling Srna, are you sure I'm making the right choice? Are you sure? Should I stay? Should I stay? And she's like, Jackie, and I will never forget this. She goes, you told me this. You would be disrespecting yourself if you stayed.
Yeah.
And that's not to say, and it's interesting because that company, at least the last one I can think about, not, you know, my first one ever, was actually a great company, and I love the people and I still do. But when certain things that I signed up for don't align, you know, changes that they're making don't align with you anymore, it's okay to say this doesn't work for me or align with what I want anymore. And because of that, I'm going to walk away.
And you know what? I remember talking to you about this. I said, it is also the universe's way of telling you you've outgrown something because you were forced to leave. Yeah. Like forced to leave in the sense of like with what you said to yourself and, you know, promised to yourself that you would do if this happens. Yeah. And sometimes you have to see those as signs in times where you're like, okay, now is my time. This is a sign that I've outgrown something. Mm-hmm. So I think that was also in your head too. It was like, and always trust your gut. Yeah. Like our mind, I think that as people, you know, you start thinking about, well, what's my backup, or what am I going to do? And how am I? And as a society, and I had a moment yesterday too, and I told you about it, where I was like, it was work wise. And I said, I'm ready to walk away if this is something. And you inspired me.
Yeah.
And my mom asked me, she goes, well, do you have a backup plan? And I said, Mom, if I don't know my value, no one else will.
But it's so funny because when Srna and I spoke about, oh my gosh, you guys.
It's okay today. We haven't been on the pod in like a couple weeks.
I've had a morning.
Yeah.
But when Srna and I spoke about it, I go, Srna, you don't even realize your worth because if you were to walk away, people would be crawling to you and you would be doing your own, you would be doing your own thing.
Yeah.
But I was going to go back to something. Oh shoot, what was I going to say?
Yeah, but I think that we were just also like, I think a big thing, I think that it all goes into like, and we were talking about this too, like being able to know your value, to know when you've outgrown something and I think that you and I, and it's funny because Jackie and I sometimes have to remind each other of that. Like where we're like, you've outgrown, like this is the time where you have to realize you've outgrown it and it's fine. It's fine to do that. And I think that it goes into relationships. It goes into also you can outgrow a dynamic of a relationship. Doesn't mean you have to outgrow the person, but the dynamic changes.
Right.
And I think also being able to outgrowing means setting boundaries too.
Yeah.
Boundaries, I think, are big.
I was going to say, even outgrowing places. So you and I lived in Boston together. And I think you and I realized like we're ready for the next step. For me, it was like, I can't find a job that aligns with what I want, which was hospitality in Boston. So I'm ready for the next step. So it's Miami, New York, LA.
Yeah.
And then we
were even looking at
LA.
LA.
We were looking at LA. We were thinking of New York too, but I think we were gravitating towards LA.
Yeah.
But I still let you guys know I love Boston, but we kind of outgrew it in terms of we're ready to go into the uncomfortable, try something new. And not a lot of people can do that. A lot of people will stay where they're at in the relationships they're in, even if they're being disrespected.
At the job they're in.
At the job because they're comfortable, they like their routine, and they don't want to be...
Even though they're miserable.
And they don't want to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, no. And I think that the unknown is uncomfortable, but it's also where you have the whole world in front of you, all the possibilities in that sense where like you cannot see what you're capable of if you're distracted by where you're currently at. And you have to be aware to know when you've outgrown something, when you've evolved. And another thing too, I was having this conversation with one of my friends who, you know, she got let go from a job. And I told her, I said, this is where you can create your reality now because while you're here and while you're distracted and doing this work that you don't want to be doing, she didn't even want to be there. But for her, her getting let go was like, oh, well, I've never been in this position. It's uncomfortable for me. And I go, that's the beauty of it.
I think I would rather, and you know, knock on wood, I've never been let go from anything. I've actually been the one to choose to walk away. And I think I would rather be let go because it's kind of like now is my chance to do whatever I want to do.
I think there's beauty in both.
There's beauty in both.
Yes.
I think there's definitely strength in walking away, but there's beauty in maybe seeing what's to come when you are let go.
And you know what? I think that also goes into relationships, being the one that's broken up with versus being the one doing the breaking up. I think that there's a lot of the times there is more beauty in not being the one that hurt someone. And a lot of the times then we later see like, thank God this person left me. And I don't, but I think that I have always, it sounds bad, but broken up with, but I've never been, someone's not broken up with me. But
wow, I'm literally the complete opposite.
No, are you kidding me? No, you're the one walking away.
I am.
You are.
Yeah. Okay.
No, you are. It's no, because I think that you I think that you set a standard and say, this isn't going to work if this isn't. And then they get to decide.
Yeah. But I'm also okay with admitting that I used to be that person who would stay in the situation, even though I knew I deserved more.
Yeah.
Because I was comfortable and because I thought that was what I deserved.
100%. And that's, I think that the biggest, there's so much beauty in the uncomfortable, I think is the big kind of thing that we wanted to emphasize here, because outgrowing means being you can't grow unless you're uncomfortable.
Yeah. You have to put yourself in uncomfortable situations in order to grow and become your best self.
We were even saying, Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates and all of them were college dropouts, did things that weren't necessarily acceptable by society, but they took that uncomfortable leap instead of becoming computer programmers or accountants. And it's, you know, and you gotta trust yourself and not go to other people.
I was going to say, stop. It's so interesting because when I used to leave jobs, I've left multiple jobs, I used to care more about what people were going to say than how I really felt, because I knew like I kind of wanted a little break. I wanted to figure out what I really wanted to do, but I was more scared about what other people were going to say than
how you felt about it. And
Right.
that's another thing too, that like when I had this situation, my mom was like, well, do you have a backup? And then later she told me, she goes, Srna, you're so brave, because I was like, no, but I know my value now. And I used to not. No. I used to not. I think that we went through a period where we were so scared to walk away from anything, whether it friendships, because you're like, what is the other person going to think of me?
Yes. We cared so much about what other people were going to say than how we really felt.
And you know what? I think that also goes into like even the podcast. I think that this was the perfect time for us to do it, because we truly, you know, I think with anything, there's going to be people that are like, oh, I can't believe they're starting.
Oh my gosh, there's always people who talk, but you know what that says? They're not happy with what they're doing in life, because people who are talking about what other people are doing, because you and I we never gossip about what other people are doing. We're more like, good for them.
And there's that quote. It says, anyone doing something meaningful isn't criticizing someone else.
Amen.
And you really have to think about it, because I think that you and I are people's biggest cheerleaders.
We really are.
I really want because this world, and again, cheesy, but this world is a better place if we're all, and there's the issue with today is there's enough for everyone. And people don't get that.
Yeah. There are 5 million podcasts. So launch your podcast if you want to. Like, people have come to me being like, oh, I want to launch one too. I'm like, great, you should do it.
And it's, you know what? I think enough talking and enough, but you know why people don't do it? Because they're scared of what others are going to think.
Right.
And then they get scared. And whatever, if people want to say stuff, let them embarrassing for them.
I'm sure there's people who talk about what we're doing with our careers, about our TikToks, about the pod. But you know what? I'm happy doing it. I feel good doing it. The feedback we've received from the paragraphs, it's just been so incredible that we're not stopping.
And you know what? In the beginning,
girl.
This is just the beginning, baby girl. But I think that in the beginning, it's obviously hard because results take time.
Yeah.
And you have to also realize, again, you have to be aware enough to realize the day you plant the seed is not the day you eat the fruit.
She says this quote to me at least once a week, and I'm like, I needed to hear that.
It's true. It's really not. And if it was that easy, everyone would do it and everyone would be successful. And that's the issue. People want automatic
results.
We've been doing this. I think this is our 5th episode.
This is our 5th episode.
And what I wanted to, like in the beginning, now over last week, our video on TikTok got like 600 something thousand views.
Yeah.
And this is when we started getting these paragraphs and it was a moment where Jackie and I were like, this is what we do it for.
Yeah. We're doing it for other people because we know our goal in life and what we're meant to do is help other people.
Yeah. And I think that if you have the mentality, and any person that has been successful goes in with the mentality to serve others.
Yes.
And to make make just humanity better and the world a better place. Mm-hmm. And people that don't, even if people are successful in the short term, if their end goal is not to serve others and have that mindset of helping us as a whole become better, it doesn't last long. That success doesn't last long. And I think Jackie and we had no other intention for this than to serve others and help others.
Right. Because there's so many podcasts, and I guess I'll leave it at this, that are just like gossip based, talking about celebrities and just mindless.
And there's nothing wrong with it, but
there's nothing wrong with it at all. I actually love the toast. Like, I listen to it myself. Oh, yeah, I think it's, you know what? It's kind of when I'm cleaning, like I just need that mindless talk, but sometimes you need the inspiration, and that's what we're trying to do here. Just kind of inspire people and share our stories to inspire you watching this, you listening to this. I feel like you and I have just outgrown a lot of situations and we've navigated it together. It has been challenging because I think you and I are people pleasers, but you have to respect yourself and fill your own cup first and remember that, yes, you might want to be there for people, but if they're not there for you, it's time to walk away.
100%. And if it's not serving you and where you're at,
it's time to walk away.
It is, baby girl.
It is. Well, thank you guys for listening to another episode of Fill Your Cup. If you're not following us already, follow us at fillyourcup.pod on TikTok and Instagram, even though we're both hating Instagram these days.
The algorithm, like our algorithm on TikTok versus Instagram.
Yeah, we're team TikTok. I'm sorry.
Right now we
Instagram. And if you have any questions, which we're going to answer a couple in our next episode, email us at fillyourcupthepod@gmail.com. That is fillyourcupthepod@gmail.com.
You're so good at that. I would never be able to do that.
No, I don't know how. I've been stuttering all episode. I don't know how I did that.
We love you guys. See you next week.
Love you.